Today we're going to talk about pitch from your workbook grade 1 by ABRSM. That is pitch part 1. What about pitch today? We're going to talk about treble clef, bass clef, position of the stems and position of the tail. So let's remember parts of the note: head, stem, tail. Okay, first of all, stem. We have the stave. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines. Our stave, always we have to count our lines in space from the bottom to the top. So we have 5 lines on the stave. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 4 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4. A note, if a note is placed on the 3rd line, you can write its stem up on the right side or down on the left. Now, if the note is placed above the 3rd line, stem must go down on the left side, above the 3rd line. Down on the left side. If the note is placed below the 3rd line, stem must go up on its right side. That's the rule. What about the tails? So let's get a quaver here. Tail is always written on the right side. Never to the left side like that. Have you ever seen this before? I hope not. Now, let's talk about the treble clef. So we have our stave with 5 lines. Our treble clef, also known as G clef, especially in the Latin countries, they call it G clef instead of treble clef, or equivalent, of course. And the G clef, the treble clef, must start being written on the 2nd line. Some books you will see that it goes like over like that on the 2nd line. The very right way to write it is starting on the 2nd line. And the note on the 2nd line is G. So G clef, and the note on the 2nd line where you should start writing your treble clef is called G. And where is middle C? G, F, E, D, C. And here we have our treble clef. Now our bass clef. Stave. Bass clef, also known as the F clef. And you guess why? So you start writing your bass clef on the 4th line. 1, 2, 3, 4, exactly on the 4th line. Place those 2 dots here. And you have your F clef or bass clef. And the note on the 4th line is F. And where is middle C? F, G, A, B, C. Now get your workbook grade 1 and let's work together. On our workbook page 8 for grade 1, I would like you to have a look at exercise number 1. Tick the higher note of each of these pairs. You see we have no clef on the left side, but still you can see which note is higher or not. Always remember what is the direction from the bottom to the top. So here on B, which one is higher? The note on the right or the note on the left? The note on the left. and then answer it, please. Now, if you want, pause the video, answer C and D, and when you finished, you then continue the video, please. Okay, here we go. So C, which one is higher? The one on the right. And which one is higher? The one on the right as well. Okay, exercise 2. Write the name of each note in the boxes. We have the treble, clef. I will give you a few seconds, or if you want, pause the video, please. And here we go. Remember, that's the G clef, treble clef. So the note on the second line where the clef starts is G. So this first note is G. And then we go space, line, space, and you reach C. And you go back one note to B. And then you go space, line, space, you reach E. The last note, if you know where middle C is, yes, on the treble clef, this is one note above middle C, which is D. Okay. Exercise 3. Write the words spelled by the notes in these examples. A. I'm gonna give you a few seconds, or if you prefer, just pause the video, please. And here we go. Second line on the treble clef, you know it's G, so next note is A. A, B, C, D. And one note above middle C, D. Oh, it was already done. Sorry. Let's go to the next one. You have one note below G, F, then F, line, space, A line, space, line, D. One above E and back to D. Faded. C. Two notes above G is B. One before B, A. Then A, line, space, line, D. Then the note on the G line is G. And here, if this was D, this is E. Great. Batch. Now, two notes above G. B. Then you have B, space, line, space, E. One before E, D. Bet. Very good. Now let's work with the bass clef. Write the name of each of these notes. So first note they gave here to us, it's F. On the F line for the F clef. Okay, so we go F, below F, E, below E, D, and then you reach C. One below C we have B, space, line, G. If this one was F, one above is G. Then line, space, B, middle C, back to B, and A. A, space, line, E. Okay, this very low note here. We've had G before on the first line. What is this note one before the one on the first line? That was G, and then F. Line, A, line, space, D. And here we have all the answers. Great. Now, write the words spelled by the notes in these examples. A. Remember, the note on the fourth line is F for the bass clef. So F, back one is E, backwards one is D, and then C. Line A, one above A, B. Then we have cap. Letter B. So you know where middle C is, yeah? On the bass clef. Then that note is one before middle C, B. Okay, what about the next note? Think about F. F clef F. If this is F, one note before is E. Then line, space line, and we have A. A up to A line space line D. Good, beat. And finally, letter C. You know where F is on the F clef? One note before E, one before D. If this is F, one above F is G, and one below F is E, and then D. Edge it. Very good. Now, exercise 6. Write the name of each of these notes. Remember to check the clefs carefully. Now, they will give us treble or bass clef and a note, and you have to tell the name, write down the name of the note. So first, you have bass clef and one note above C on the ledger line. Ledger line is those extra lines where middle C is written, for example, because on the piano, for example, we have 88 keys. You cannot write all the notes only on the 5 lines and first spaces on the stave. So what do? We add extra lines called ledger lines. So C is written on a ledger line, and above C we have D. So I give you some time, or better than that. Just pause the video, please. Do your exercise and then let's go. C, letter C. What note is that? You know the second line is G for the treble clef or G clef. G, A, B, C, D, E. So this is E. Always follows G, then space, line, E. So G, A, B, C, D, E. Next, bass clef. Find the F for the F clef or bass clef, and then you go back. F line, F space line space. So F, E, D, C. Next, you know the second line is G for the treble clef, so G, A, B. And what this note is, if on the second line is G, one before is F. What about here? Fourth line is F for the bass clef, so you go down to this note. F, E, D, C, B, A, G. You always have to go space line to reach your note, okay? H. F. Here I would tell you about 2 strategies. If you already know, yeah, you should know at least, depends on your instrument, that on the bass clef, where middle C is on the bass clef. So if this is middle C, one before is B, okay. Or you can use the other strategy, going from the F note for the F clef, bass clef. F, G, A, B. Okay, very good. Exercise 7. Tick the correct clef needed to make each of these named notes. So you don't have a clef here, but you're gonna have to try and, oh, here's, yeah, it's better, yeah? So you don't have a clef here, so you're gonna have to guess if it's a treble or bass clef. Look at the note. Use your strategy about the G clef and F clef. So if this was to be a treble clef, the second line would be G, G, A, B, C, and then that would be C. No, but I wanted it to be E. So if you have a F clef, bass clef, the fourth line is F, one before E. So this is a bass clef, okay? So pause the video, do the whole exercise 7, and then continue. Okay, B. They want this to be a note G. If that was a bass clef, middle C is here. One before middle C is B, not G. So if it's not bass clef, it is treble clef. Next, this should be D. If here was a treble clef, G would be on the second line, so it would be G, A, B. And if that was a bass clef, F is on the fourth line, F, E, D. So this is a bass clef. Middle C. Easy, eh? How do we make it a middle C? Bass clef. What about here? How do we make this note A? So G clef, you can see straight away G is on the second line, and then A, so treble clef. And D, if you know middle C is here on the treble clef, then this is D, so treble clef. And here, B, if it was treble clef, this note would be G, G clef. So it's not, so it is bass clef. E, if it was a bass clef, F would be on the fourth line, the F clef, and this would be G. So it's not G, they want E, so it is treble clef. Okay, very good. Now, next exercise. Tick or cross each box to show whether stems have been added correctly or incorrectly to each note. Pause the video and do the exercise. And then here we go. Stem is on the right side, but it's above the third line, so it is wrong. Here, sorry. Stem is down on the third line, fine, but it's on the right side, should be on the left, wrong. Next, stem is, note is above the third line, okay, stem down on the left, great, right. Here, what is wrong with this one? Stem is up, fine, but should be on the right side. Next, stem down on the right side? No, it should be down on the left. Next, stem up on the right side below the third line. Great, right. Letter G, stem on the left side up? Wrong. Last one, note is below the third line, stems up on the right. Right. Very good. And finally, on exercise 9, tick or cross each box to show whether these single quavers and pairs of quavers have been written correctly or incorrectly. Oh dear me, what is wrong about it? Or do you think this is right? Take your time, do the whole exercise, and then go back to the video. Okay, let's see. What is wrong about this one? Remember, we never ever write a tail on the left side of the note. Must be on the right side of the note. So wrong. This. So the second line is on the third line, so it can go up or down the stem. And the first line is above the third line, so should go down. So this must be down, and this can be up or down. Then makes sense if we put both down, yeah? So right. What is wrong about this one? Notes are below the third line, so both stems should be up. And this one. So right. Okay, that was all for today's lesson, and I see you on Saturday.